Cool. Welcome back to Comedy or Worse. I'm here with a very special guest,
Ryan Shores.
Yay! I always point at them and have them say their name. Just make sure that I pronounce it correctly.
Okay.
By not pronouncing it. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah.
Am I playing towards the camera, or are we just going
Whatever
audio?
feels natural.
Okay.
You can look at the camera if you want to talk to the audience. You can look at me if you want to talk to me.
Yeah, let's talk to you.
All right, cool. Do you use a stage name or is that your real name?
Ryan Shores is my real name.
Oh, yeah. Cool. So how did you get into comedy?
I mean, I grew up at the tail end of the comedy boom, so it was always on TV. I always loved it. Every station had comedy on it at some point back then. And if I saw comedy on TV, the clicker went down. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm watching. And as soon as it was over, I'd grab a wooden spoon from the kitchen, go in front of a mirror, and start trying to do the bits. But even back then, I was like, I'm just kind of doing what I just saw on TV. And
Right.
I was cognizant, even at 6 years old, you couldn't do that. So I'm like, I don't have the brain for this, which is why I get so indignant when people find out I'm a comedian. They go, oh, man, I'd be a great comedian. Get me up there, man. Next show, put me on stage. I'm just like, dude, even at 6 years old, I still believed in Santa Claus and realized I had more self-awareness than you do right now as a grown man. So it wasn't until college, I think, I started developing. Well, I got a job at a barbershop working the front counter, and customers would come in, and they were the most entitled college kids. I mean, I went to school there too, but like they wanted to know why they had to wait in line behind people that were there first, and I would get so annoyed with them, and so I'd go on MySpace, which was the style at the time, and I'd write rants about these customers and how much I hated them and why do people do this and that. And I started realizing, wow, this kind of plays out like a stand-up, and I think I'm developing, life experience where I can actually write bits. So my last night of college, I was a theater major at STSU. The graduating seniors were allowed to go on stage in this black box theater in front of all their peers and other people graduating and do whatever they wanted. You could sing a song, read a monologue, whatever you want. I signed up for stand-up. First time ever doing it. And I didn't realize this at the time, but it was a loaded audience because they all knew me. These are people I'd gone to school with for 4 years. So I crushed, but that was a false sense of confidence. Yeah. I realize now I would have crushed no matter what I said. But I did walk off that stage that night going, wow, that I had this incredible feeling I never had before. And I was like, I got to do that all the time.
You got a preview of what it's like to sell the show.
Yeah, exactly. So I started working the open mics. That didn't go as well. But I started working my way up from there.
Oh, yeah. Cool. So what year did you start?
2009.
Wow. That's awesome. Cool. And then, let's see. So what's your writing process for comedy?
I don't sit down and write. Something's just got to occur to me, and I jot it down, then I flesh it out. So something has to fall in my lap.
Yeah. Sweet. Alrighty. So who's the funniest person in your life right now?
The funniest person in my life. I'm going to say my buddy John Groobs. He's like, he and I have worked on a ton of projects. He's not a comedian, but that's the guy that keeps me honest. He's one of my best friends, and that's the guy I go to if I want to write something. I sit down with him. He has no interest in performing, but sometimes the funniest people, it's a crime, but they don't want to perform. They're just like, yeah.
Exactly. Alrighty, that's cool. So I asked this of everybody. I don't always know the answer, but when did we meet?
I think we met here at the Madhouse Comedy Club, right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Sweet. So have you ever traveled to do comedy?
Yeah, I've traveled all over the country. I've done about 6 or 7 national tours, and I've really done most of my work on the road. So I started really early touring. I think I was in my I only been doing a year before I did my first road gig in Yuma, Arizona. And I was under the tutelage of a mentor friend of mine who was a headliner that would take me with him on gigs and taught me how to network and book these out-of-town gigs for myself. And before I knew it, I was able to put together entire tours. I think the longest I've been on the road is a month. So, yeah.
Sweet. So, what's the biggest audience you perform for?
I'm going to say probably like 2,000 people, probably. I've done that a few times. I've played some military bases. I do a lot of casinos. And casino gigs are either the best gig or the worst gig, depending on where they put you.
Yeah.
Because, all right, it's guaranteed money, which is cool. They always put you up. So the guesswork is taken out of, getting your accommodations. It's almost better than working at home because I'm staying in a hotel room above the place up before me. I just take an elevator down and I'm there. But there's 2 types of casino gigs. They either put you in the showroom, good, or the loser's lounge, which is not good because that's all the people that just lost all their money and are nursing a drink. And guess what? They are not in the mood for comedy. And there's a door opening into the casino, so as you're doing your gig, you just hear like a slot machine. It's like bing, 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 bing. So, but some of those showrooms get pretty big.
Cool. So do you have any hobbies or passions that aren't related to comedy?
Oh, yeah. I play music. I paint. Before I was a comic, I was really into martial arts. I fought amateur MMA for a while when I was younger, but that was another driving force into comedy. I knew I was never going to make it pro, so
Sure.
I abandoned that one.
Yeah, kind of harder on the body.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you wish you started comedy earlier?
Yeah, it would have been harder. I think the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah.
I still started relatively at a right time at 23. I wish I'd started at 21. Prior to that, it's going to be hard to find gigs you're allowed into, I imagine. Yeah, but Eddie Murphy started at 14 years old. Can you imagine? But yeah, the guys that start early and really get ingrained in them, those are the best comics. It's what I tell people is the later you start, the harder it is. Starting at 23, I have time to hang out at open mics until my spot, several times a week. I've got the energy and motor to work an 8-hour day, go home and change my shirt, and then drive to Riverside to do a gig, come back at 1 a.m. in the morning, go to sleep for a few hours, and go to work the next day. At 38, which is the age I am now, I couldn't do that. I need to know where I'm performing, what time I'm going to be there. I can't. I'm not waiting around all night to do a 3-minute open mic spot.
Sure, that makes sense. So, what are your goals in comedy right now?
Right now, I'm really enjoying just doing the shows I want to do.
That's cool.
If it's not paying a lot or if it didn't just sound fun, I'll do a show for free if it sounds like a blast. If it doesn't sound very fun, I'm going to need to know they're giving me enough money to make it worth my while. So I've reached a point where, if someone's like, do you want to play a really rowdy dive bar in Lakeside? I can give you $20. No, I'm not doing that. Thank you for the offer. So my goal right now is just to play shows I really want to do.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So what is your favorite joke right now? It could be anybody's joke.
Anybody's joke. I had a favorite from a guy who no longer does comedy. He's a writer for commercials now. His name was Ryan Hicks, and it's a shame he doesn't do comedy anymore because he was really good. But he had a bit that I always found really funny where he said the premise basically is that he worked in an office with his friend. His friend asked why he was going to the bathroom so much. He didn't realize he was going to the bathroom more than usual. So his friend suggested he see a doctor, and the punchline is, so I saw a doctor to see why I go to the bathroom so much, and it turns out I am addicted to cocaine. That would always...
So do you have a favorite fan interaction? Like either someone was a fan of you or you were a fan of...
Anytime anyone recognizes me or bothers to talk to me, it gives me the same rush. I don't necessarily have a favorite one, no, but if there's ever a time someone says, "Hey, I follow you online," or I saw you at this gig and my friend's got tickets to come see you again.
Yeah.
That's a huge rush to me. I almost don't know what to say,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what was your family life growing up?
Parents died very young. My mom died when I was 7, and it was just me and my dad for a while, and then he died when I was 17. I grew up in Orange County, and so I went to live in a motel after that for the end of high school, and I'd already gotten into San Diego State, so I just basically bided my time for a few months in the motel and till it was time to move to San Diego to go to school, move into the dorms, and that's how I ended up here.
Wow. That's a sad story, but glad you were able to get through it. So what's your earliest memory?
Probably getting taken to the movies by my dad. I always loved the movie theater. The movie theater used to be my happy place, but people are so rude now in those things, like with phones and talking, and I almost can't watch a movie with John Q. Public because I just get so annoyed. I'm so focused on everyone else in the theater making too much noise that I just wait for it to scream. But the movie theater was always my happy place growing up. Just the smell of it, the old casino carpeting in there, the broken arcade games from the 80s sitting in the corner. Just everything about it I liked.
Yeah, sweet. Cool. So do you do any other type of art?
Well, music and painting, yeah.
Sweet. Yep. Sometimes I ask things come out and I forget that it did not happen.
It happens.
I read the question before I even thought about it. So you grew up in Orange County?
Yes, yeah, Costa Mesa.
Cool. Do you ever or would you ever do a character on stage?
I started out doing a character when I was really, really new in my first year.
Yeah.
When younger comics or newer comics come to me for advice, I really advise against it. Do whatever you want, but my advice would be not to do one. My character, I was very deadpan, very one-linery, kind of like Stephen Wright almost, where I'd hold a beer and I'd pretend to be drunk and I wouldn't move the mic off the stand, and but I really think a character is a way to hide. If no one laughs and they don't like me, they don't like this character I'm hiding behind. I think it's a defense mechanism.
But what if you're like doing multiple characters?
Multiple characters? No, I don't think that's my style. The thing is, like one night I was playing some bar And I didn't feel like doing the character that night. I just took the mic off the stand and I was just me.
Yeah.
And my friends were there who are also comics. And they're like, dude, that's what you got to be doing. That was the best you've ever done. You were just you, you know? The more yourself you are up there, I think the better you'll do. Because the audience can sense phoniness. They can sense, they're smarter than people give them credit for.
Sure, right. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to go up there and just be my normal self. Because, like, I'm being like a heightened version of myself.
Well, yeah, that's valid.
About and doing different voices if I can.
Yeah, I mean, doing a voice is one thing for a bit, but like if you're just this completely different version of yourself, you're not going to be able to write for someone who isn't you. So, but I'm the same way. What you see on stage is me with the volume turned up.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Which, sometimes comics are like, or even audience are like, oh, you're so different, or you're different than what you're on stage. It's like, yeah, because I'm performing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You see comics and they're just like doing the same jokes for years and they're not getting better at the joke.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
not selling the joke.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Everybody has their own path, but it's crazy to me.
Yeah, I try not to give advice unless it's solicited.
I always try to tell people too, this is what's working for me.
Yeah.
That's all you can do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you listen for those spots and
Listen to the audience, record everything, listen back to it.
Sure.
So have you ever won a comedy contest or anything like that?
Yeah, I used to actually, early on, I had to find creative ways to get stage time I wanted to get more stage time than anyone else that was working open mics. By the time when I was in my open mic phase, there was 4 open mics throughout the week, and I'd go to each one of them, but I'm like, how can I get more? So 2 creative things I found to do is, I was really immersed in the punk scene in San Diego. So what I do for stage time, I would go to bands I knew and independent promoters, and I'd volunteer to MC punk shows for free, with the understanding I could do time in between the bands. The other way I got it was by hustling comedy contests, because I don't know how it is now, but in 2011 when I was doing this, comedy contests were running rampant. It seemed to be like a lot of them. So I would go online and I would usually be able to find some like bar on an off night holding a comedy contest in like a shitty California desert town like Riverside or Murrieta or Hemet. Yeah. And it'd be like, okay, locals only comedy contest. Winner gets $150. And I would drive out to the middle of nowhere, and it was usually just local yokels that haven't really done comedy before. And sometimes they'd be like, oh, it's only locals. You have to be from this zip code or county. And I'd lie like, yeah, I'm just moved here. And I would just hustle the contest. Now that would backfire sometimes. It wasn't foolproof, but I would, so then I'd come home with my $125 after gas and my little certificate that said Riverside's funniest person, which I'd throw in the trash. And so I do a lot of those.
Wow, that's cool. So have you booked shows of your own?
Yeah, I was booking a lot of shows pre-COVID. I was running 4 rooms. Had a really good formula for doing it. Obviously, COVID shut that all down. And I tried to relaunch them after COVID, but it just wasn't the same. First of all, 2 of the venues closed down permanently during the pandemic. So I had 2 left, and people got used to staying home. Like, my shows would almost always sell out. We had a really good system for it, but all of a sudden after the pandemic, they just The seats weren't filling up. The venue was losing money on what they paid me. And I had to ask for what they were paying me so I could pay out my comics. And so it ended up being not worth the headache, and I stopped doing that.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your best booking story? Either you got booked on the show, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I got booked, or you booked someone that you're like, wow, it's amazing they were able to come.
Geez, that's a good question. Best booking story. I mean, getting booked to open for Sarah Silverman was cool. I was really naive back then. What people think is that, these big name headliners, that like when they play a club that they choose their openers. Not so. They don't know who's on before them. They don't care. They're in the green room reading over their set list. But I was like 25, and I'm like, oh, this is my night, man. I'm opening for Sarah Silverman. She's going to see me, and she's like, you're coming on the road with me, kid. You're great. Welcome to show business. And anyway, after the show, it was at the Hollywood Improv. Afterwards, I was like, hey, how's it going, to Sarah Silverman. She's like, thanks for coming to the show. I'm like, she does not even know I opened for her. It was disappointing, but it was a reality check that I needed.
Yeah, it's still a good story.
Yeah.
Cool. So, have you ever been like on Kill Tony or anything like that?
I have not been on Kill Tony. I actually don't like that show.
Let's move on. What's the worst thing about comedy right now?
Worst thing about comedy? It's just the stuff that's always been, I think. Well, you know what? I think the worst thing right now, which is unprecedented, is jokes getting turned into memes by audience members that, go viral. You almost can't do one-liners anymore because I think the time of one-liners is dead. It's not coming back because of memes, because of, circulation. There are people that will go to a show and hear a guy do a one-liner and make a meme as soon as they get home and put it on the internet. So you really have to personalize things. I think storytelling is the only way to keep it original right now because there's just so much plagiarism. And yeah, I think that's the worst thing is the plagiarism.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Have you ever been in a car accident?
Car accident? When I was a kid, yeah. It was like Christmas. I think I was like 6. We were driving around looking at the lights on houses, and this drunk driver blew a red, and then we nearly missed us. But then the cop car T-boned us. And my aunt broke her collarbone. My head smacked against the dash. So yeah, that was something. Luckily, no one was like very seriously hurt or died or anything. But yeah.
That's crazy. Ooh, well, it's a good thing. Wasn't too bad. Do you have like any merch?
Yeah, I stickers and T-shirts, and then if I'm on tour, I'll usually have an artist friend of mine do like a really cool poster, and I'll print like one sheets out of those, and I'll sell them for like $1. Nothing big, but but yeah, my T-shirts are my biggest one. It's got my logo on it, which I use my logo as just my identity on social media. If you go look for me, you won't see my face in the profile picture. You'll see my logo, which is a bandaged up hand holding a microphone with my initials tattooed on the knuckles.
Cool. That's pretty cool. Let's see. So, who's the best punk band that you've seen live?
Best punk band I've seen live? Well, when the Misfits reunited, that was really cool with the original lineup. I saw them at the LA Coliseum. Liked them. Let's see. Are we talking about like seminal punk bands or like local?
Whatever you think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Misfits was my favorite one.
That's cool. Did you ever like tour with any bands?
No, I would MC shows. I think the coolest thing I got was because I used to MC these punk shows.
Yeah.
There was a show last November. This is really cool for me. Is two of the most important punk bands in history, The Adolescents and Fear, were co-headlining. And the opening band, the LA Slumlords, they're like, we should do this old school. I was at the Regent Theater in LA. And they're like, we should have an MC. And the guitar player, James Cross, said, we should get a comedian to do it. And they said, well, is there any comedians in Southern California that have a history of MCing punk bands? And as far as I'm told, there was one name on the list. So I got to open for the Adolescents and Fear. Fear being the first band to get kicked off Saturday Night Live in 1980. That was a trip. Walking on stage in front of 2,000 people, that was really cool for me.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, but tour, no. I just do straight up comedy tours.
All right, cool. Let's see. So, have you done sketches?
Oh yeah, I have a theater background, so I'm always down to do a good sketch. Like if it's funny, if someone pitches me something, one thing that I won't do is I won't do something if no one has a plan on how to execute it. Like, I wrote this sketch. Like, all right, what kind of camera? Oh, well, I don't have that yet. All right, where are you going to shoot this? It calls for these locations. Well, I'm going to find that event. I'm like, you know what? Call me when you find all that stuff. But yeah, I love doing sketches.
That's cool. Have you ever done improv with a group?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be part. Any theater major is going to have at least a little improv thing. It's not really my thing. There is a great show that I want to plug. It's here in town. It's over in Point Loma, or Liberty Station more accurately. It's called Comedy versus Improv.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a neat little show. They hire 3 comics, and they have an improv troupe. And each comic comes out, does their 10 minutes. Then their improv troupe comes out and does sketches based on that guy's material. So I thought that's a really neat show. And I do that one for free because all the ticket sales go into keeping that theater open and keeping the improv troupe alive, which I think is a very worthy cause.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah, I've done one. I don't know if it was with that improv group, but at the Comedy Palace before, it was still called the Comedy Palace.
Yeah.
That was in the Gold Room. That was fun.
Oh, I didn't know they were doing that back there. That's cool.
Yeah. I think they just had started. And then, COVID hit.
Oh, okay. That's why it escaped my attention.
Yeah, it was only they probably only got to do, well, maybe they did it for like a year at the most.
Mm.
Let's see. So, did you say you had brothers and sisters? Or?
No, I'm only child.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes more sense. Otherwise, you would add. Well, I mean, I guess if you were the oldest, it would have been more of a problem.
Yeah.
If you were the youngest, it would. I guess that makes sense. Why do you go live, with an older sibling?
Yeah.
That's on our end. We can't control the sirens. Sorry.
You'll get that in post.
Oh no. Have the AI do it. Let's see. So you're living in San Diego still?
Yep. I live over near Mission Gorge College area.
Oh, okay, cool. So are you doing? So you're just picking what shows you do right now, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I decided to take this year off touring. I usually do once a year, but touring is hard for me. It's really mentally taxing. I like it when I have someone I'm on the road with, but that's very rare. Usually it's just me, and that's a very lonely existence, and by week 2, I'm ready to go home. Because you're just by yourself 23 hours a day. I mean, the show's great, but like, there's only so many motels I can sit around watching reruns of Judge Judy and Family Guy on TBS before I go insane.
Sure. So, have you ever, like, you said you did art, right?
Yeah, I do oil pastel paintings.
Do you ever like sell your art?
I've sold a couple. I more give them away to friends. They're hard to part with because I'm really proud of them, but art should be enjoyed by other people, and so anytime somebody wants one of my paintings, I just give it to them because it's an honor that's hanging in their house and they're enjoying it. So that's enough for me.
That's cool. So do you ever try to get your art just hung places?
No, not really. It's something I picked up just for me. I just took a bunch of free online classes learning how to blend colors and doing all that. And I took to it pretty fast, and I just really enjoy like impressionism. I can't draw like humans. They'll come up looking like a cartoon, but landscapes, buildings, stuff like that. I really enjoy that.
Oh, that's cool. Let's see. What about? I totally forgot what I was going to say. Have you ever like done extreme sports, or you said you did MMA?
Yeah. I went 7-3 as a amateur fighter, and that was also in college. Big ways that ended was I'd been doing it for 4 years, which when you're 21 years old, that's a big chunk of your life. When you're in college, you have time to train because you need to train like 6 hours a day, 6 days a week at minimum. I mean, it's not something you can do casually if you actually want to get into a cage. Because I just had classes a couple times a day, and then the rest of the time I'd be training. But when it got to near graduation, I had a decision to make. And I went to my team, and I was like, hey guys, when am I ready for my first pro fight? And I remember the look they gave each other. There's like, Ryan, you're at least a year or 2 out, man. Like, that's being generous. Like, you've got a long way to go. They're like, because they were all pros. And they're like, which one of us do you think you can beat? I'm like, well, none of you guys. And they're like, well, that's the level of fighter you'll be fighting. And you can't beat anyone here. And so there was that. And I'm like, I don't know if I can go another 1 to 2 years without making any money. And then I started to learn what kind of pay was in store for me if I did make it pro. You're talking about like, when you're really just starting out as a pro doing local fights, it's like $800 to show up, $1,600 to win, but you can only fight like 1 to 3 times a year. So I can't live on less than $10,000 a year. And you can't hold a stable job, because of how much dedication it takes. It just, the writing was on the wall. It was over.
Wow. Yep, you hear that? Maybe you shouldn't do MMA.
Yeah.
People. Do you have children, or are you married?
No, I'm recently divorced. Well, divorced for 2 years. No children. Never. I always thought I would have them, but the time came where it was like the appropriate age to have kids. I just didn't want to.
Okay.
Yeah. I always just thought.
Guys can have kids at almost any age, so.
Yeah, that's true, but I just, never something that I just think that I lack the patience to be a good dad. So, I can be around kids for a couple hours and then I start to get like, oh God, shut up. Yeah, and I really think my dad had the same problem. I don't think he had the patience to be a good dad. He was a good guy, but he expected me to behave like an adult when I was like 6. So I just didn't want to pass on that to another kid.
Sure, absolutely, I get it. So, what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie, well, my favorite horror movie, I'd say, is Pet Sematary. Favorite comedy, that's a tall order. Favorite action movie is The Crow.
Did you ever see the remake?
No, I don't. I have no interest in that.
Sure.
There's certain movies you just don't remake. I also wouldn't go. Oh, you know what? My favorite movie is Jaws.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Sweet. It's not Jaws, but I was just riding my unicycle down the street, and all these birds were flying above, and I'm like thinking of the birds.
The Hitchcock film.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's definitely not Jaws, but still, it's around the same era.
Yeah. Natural attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's see. So, have you performed at the Yodor yet?
No, that's the new one. I've not performed there.
Okay. Well, maybe.
Is it good?
Sure. It's good for what it is. The only complaint is it has a high ceiling.
Oh, okay.
So, there's some comics that.
Yeah, usually when a new club opens, I wait because I know every comic in town is going to flood there to try and get in early. So I let the line die down a little bit, and then I'm like, all right. So, yeah, I'm not interested in being voice number 300 on them trying to get in the door right now, right when it opens. I'll wait.
Cool. So, what's your favorite place that you ever performed? Maybe you performed there multiple times or something.
Favorite place to perform? Well, in town, I like it here at the Madhouse. This is my home club. I've performed at all 3 Madhouse locations, going back to when it was in a business park back in 2009 or 10. But I'm past at the Comedy Store. I love playing there Thursday nights. Trying to think if there's like a favorite spot I've done on the road. I really liked the Clearwater Casino in Seattle. That was a fun room. And let's see. Yeah, there's been so many places that's kind of a tall order.
Oh no, it's fine. It's just questions.
Yeah.
To get through. What about roast battle? Have you done roast battle?
I have done roast battle. Yeah, I went against my friend Brandon Potter, and I won that one.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Okay, good. The program is broken. I was like, oh no. But this shouldn't affect the podcast, except that now I brought it up. Why did I do that? Brains are weird.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, do you have your own podcast?
I did. That's another thing that fell by the wayside during the pandemic. We tried to do it remotely. It just wasn't the same. And
so who was it with?
It was me, Dave Callens, and Robert Timothy. We were on for a lot of years. I really enjoyed it, but Again, after the pandemic, they had their own projects going on. By now, our producer has 2 kids now, and a ton of his own projects going on. Dave started his own podcast, and they're just like, we did this for a lot of years, and
Sure. What was it called?
the Degenerate Podcast.
Oh, cool. So did you do seasons or episodes?
Oh, we just did episodes. Yeah, there's no seasons.
How many did you do? You think?
I think around 300 or something.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Sweet. How often did it come out, though?
Every week.
Wow. Sweet. That's cool. So, do you ever think you'd do another podcast? Or?
Conceivably, yeah. I miss doing it. But I'd have to find the right dynamic. I don't want to just put a podcast out that I'm not proud of.
Sure.
And I don't really want to do one just by myself. So, yeah, the right piece would have to fall into place, and yeah, I'd do it again.
Sure. Cool. Hear that? Was looking, maybe? Is it you? Okay. Speaking of which, how do people get a hold of you?
They can find me on Facebook, Instagram. They can also email me directly at ryanshores138@gmail.com. I answer all my emails.
Okay. And then on Instagram, it's, what's your Instagram handle again?
It is Ryan_Shores138.
Your Instagram as well?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that makes it easy. It's the same. There you go. Let's see. What else we got? Is there anything else that you want to talk about? If you're promoting anything, we can. This is going to come out a little later, so I'll stop it, and then we can do a promo.
No, nothing to promote right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So what's today? Thursday, the 20-something, right?
Yeah.
20, yeah. And then, so what are you going to do later today?
I'm going to go home, eat dinner, and cuddle with my dog and watch TV.
Cool. So what are you watching on TV right now?
I'm watching a show called From. It's kind of like a horror show about this. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Nice.
Anything that comes out that's a documentary, I'll probably at least get a try.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm into right now.
Oh.
I'm a binge watcher, man. I'm a homebody and a binge watcher.
So do you wait for things to come out and be done and then watch it, or?
I prefer doing that because I need instant gratification. I just got into a show called Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone. And
Was it because of the ads?
huh?
Was it because of the ads?
The ads?
You watch what is it on Paramount Plus or something?
Yeah.
And they sometimes they'll just play an ad for that show.
Oh yeah. No, a friend recommended it to me, and the first season was already done, so I got to binge it. But now I have to. They're on season 2. I have to wait a week in between each one. I'm like, this is torture.
Wow. That's too bad.
But you know what's it's funny though is that when you binge watch TV, where everything's available to you, you can knock it out in like a couple days. Then the next season comes out a year later, and you're like, who are these characters? I don't even remember. I'm like, what's the premise of this show?
Yeah, that's true. Have you ever watched Justified?
No. Is that any good?
Yeah, it's really good. I never got all the way through it, but everybody loves it. I mean, the people that like the show like the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not like there's oh, don't bother. I didn't hear anything like don't bother. It's just sometimes you just get caught up. Where you're you catch up and then it's now it's coming out week to week and you just kind of drop off.
Yeah.
And I've tried to go back and finish it, but then it's oh, okay, I kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think I need to just start at the beginning again.
Yeah, I've done that. I've had to recap.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So that's a good podcast length. Or
I'd say so.
oh yeah. Sometimes I get awkward at the end. Like, should I stop? Should we keep going? You know.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we'll stop and then we'll just record a little promo anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. All right. Bye, everybody.